Hello, everybody. My name is Marsh, and today we're going to be doing a review on Lightbringer by Pierce Brown. Let's jump into it. So, Lightbringer by Pierce Brown. This review is going to be spoiler filled for the most part. In terms of my spoiler free thoughts, I think it's a great addition to the series. When I go about ranking them, I put it probably just below Golden Sun. I'll have to see if that stands up with time or if it surpasses it. But if you've liked the Red Rising book so far, you're definitely going to like this one as well, and it's a great penultimate book to the series. That's basically my spoiler free review. Feel free to click off this video if you don't want any spoilers, but we're going to go ahead and jump into a spoiler filled discussion from this point on. So if you don't want to be spoiled, click off. If you're ready to talk about Lightbringer, let's go ahead and get started. Before we do though, if you could leave a like and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. Let's go ahead and get going. So for this spoiler filled discussion, I'm going to take it character by character in terms of our viewpoint characters, talk about their storylines, go through what I liked, what I didn't like. The majority of it is all likes. There's a few nitpicks I have, but it's hard for me to bring flaws up when it comes to Red Rising. I'm just so obsessed with them. But we'll take it character by character and do it that way. I'll try to also keep it somewhat chronological so it kind of flows. So starting with part 1/part 2, the first character I wanted to talk about was Virginia. I really liked Virginia in this one. I said in Dark Age, I didn't really connect to Virginia's chapters until the very end of it, but in this one, it connected straight away for me. Now, in terms of her story, we only really get her viewpoint in part 2 when she's in the battle with Lysander, and I'll get to Lysander eventually, and talk about the overall space battle that occurred because it was pretty epic and pretty crazy overall. But basically, Virginia's part in this was to help set up the final book and her basically fighting for Mars, preparing with everyone, doing everything she can, and messing up a lot. She's not perfect. She's not a perfect sovereign. She's not a perfect general. And there were certain moments as well when she's talking to Darrow about like, you have to trust me, like you don't have any confidence in me, that were like hitting to the core. And they were a good point because he was like demeaning her in certain ways when it came to certain tactics. And so just getting that overall respect from him was important to her. But the way they handled the battle between her and Lysander was pretty crazy. Like it it was just nuts in general. And then it finally ended with the truce between her and Lysander, and basically her making the decision to retreat back to Mars to protect the remainder of the people on Phobos or Phoebos, whatever you want to call it. I don't listen to the audiobook, so I don't know. And so they went back to Mars and did that. One thing I will say about this book, it's a lot lighter than Dark Age. There's actually bright moments and happy moments, so it's not all depression, which is good. And that's basically it for Virginia, honestly. She's set up for the final act of it, and we'll talk about her more with the other characters as well, but let's go ahead and jump into the next character. The next character I want to talk about is Lyria. Now, Lyria may not be a lot of people's favorites, but she's actually one of my favorite viewpoints to read, to be quite honest. I enjoy her in Dark Age, and part of that is I feel like she's the only good moral character that's left. Everyone is gray, and even people like Darrow do have somewhat of a redemption arc in this book where you start to feel for them more like you did in the original trilogy, and it's not as like, oh, you're a bad guy, everyone's bad kind of thing. But Lyria is the true, like, wholesome good one. I wouldn't say nitpick, but my only thing, it seems like there's certain plot points that were dropped from previous ones. So like Lyria had like the squid in her head, Figment, and they just kind of like killed it off when she was basically with the Rangers and all the Rangers died. And it was really cool when they went in the asteroid and there's like this weird infection going on. I really like when they bring horror aspects into sci-fi. And I think Pierce Brown did a good job at bringing the horror into it, especially in the previous book when he had us first introduced to like the Ascamani and they're like really creepy and weird. But basically all her Rangers die. She gets picked up by Mateo and he takes out Figment for her. And the big crux of that was she wants to not forget her memory. She'd rather do that than become a superhuman with Figment and be able to control all these computers because she wants to remember who she is, which is good. And I don't know if part of it was like he didn't know where to take her. I think what I lean more towards is the strength in Lyria isn't the fact that she has superhuman abilities and can do all these things. It's the viewpoint we get of a Red who is small and vulnerable and still has to stand up for herself in this world and do things for herself. And that's where the true power comes in with Lyria that I really appreciate, because it's more, you have to be cunning, you have to figure things out. It's not easy, it doesn't come easy. And that's where I really like Lyria as a character, and she's actually one of my favorites, probably behind Darrow is my second favorite, if not my favorite, to be quite honest with you. Her and her relationship with Volga towards the end is sad and like depressing, but then amazing at the same time. When Volga almost turned on her, and she basically did, and she turned her into Fa and was about to kill her and couldn't do it. And obviously Darrow saved the day coming out of the like Leviathan, I think it was, or the big fish thing, shark, whatever creature it was, coming out of its guts and attacking. I kind of not predicted, but I saw that coming in that scene when they started talking about the Reds like being all confused and there was lights coming from it. I'm like, oh, they're going to jump out of the gut. This is the plan here. And I kind of saw that, but I liked where they took it. And she really had to convince Volga to trust her and go with her. And I really love their relationship between the two of them. They're basically in it for each other. That's all they have. And they're just together. And I really love that like wholesome relationship. Like I mentioned before, it's one of my favorite aspects, her constant bond to want to make friends and doing it. And she's just so kind-hearted, even though she was like abused by Ephraim, taken advantage of. And she just put into all these bad situations that she doesn't deserve. Along talking about friendship as well. My favorite character in the Red Rising series, it didn't used to be, but I think Cassius after this book might become one of my favorite characters, if not my favorite, to be quite honest with you. His development in this book was just great. Now, since we're talking about Lyria, the way he treated Lyria was great as well. And she was like the only person that can be kind to him. She knows his past, and it's not like he's an innocent person, but no one else really believes in him. And she was really his like only friend for a moment there on Archimedes. And their relationship just really grew on me. And it's so saddening with what happens in the end that she loses him. And then when Darrow like hugs her at the end and they're crying, this is probably the most emotional I felt in a Red Rising book. The other ones never really hit me well, I take that back. Golden Sun hit me in the feels in certain moments, like in the tunnel and like Darrow's mom. But this one really hit me when it was like with Cassius. And I know it's like you never see a body. If you don't see a body, they're not dead kind of thing. So it's okay that he was brought back. But his development in it really made him become one of my favorite characters, just with all the struggle he goes through and the true love that's in his heart. He just wants to have a friend and have a family. And since we're on it, the topic of it, we'll just talk about Cassius before we jump into Lysander and Darrow and Sevro. Cassius, he just really wants a family and a friend and someone to talk to. And it was just so beautiful, his story and the way he finally like connected with Darrow by the end, and they were regretting not being together for 10 plus years and they would do it differently. And they called each other brother, and he even earned Sevro's respect at the end, becoming who he is, being selfless and defending others and doing all those things. And he just really redeemed himself as a character from the original, and I'm all about that. And I really loved his attitude and how he handled things. I'm like gushing about it, and I'm not going into detail very well either. It's just, it really hit me. And then you have like, we'll just talk about Lysander a bit. You have the moment when Cassius dies, and it's really reminiscent of Revenge of the Sith for me. You have Cassius, who's like the Obi-Wan. You have Atlas, who's like the Emperor, and you have Lysander, who's like Anakin, except in this situation, Anakin kills both of them. But like the things that they went through, and for Lysander to turn on him and become an evil little, it just really makes you hate that character. Since we're talking about him, we'll talk about him. Say it with me. Fuck you, Lysander. Get it out. Oh, he's the worst. I really hate his conniving. He has these moments that are bright and people are like, oh, he's noble. And you think he's going to become good again. And Pierce Brown really makes you want to hate Lysander, and you should hate him. Because in the end, he let the power corrupt him. And he killed Cassius, betrayed Darrow and Diomedes, and did all these things. And a lot of it is that is his upbringing with Atlantia and Ajax and just being screwed over at every turn, being poisoned by everyone. He feels like he is tired of being pushed on, and now it's his time to do the pushing and control things. And I understand it, but you had an opportunity to join the Republic, but he became greedy. He wants to do it in his own way, and he wants to do it as a tyrant. And now Cassius is the main villain. He's basically the Sith. He's Anakin. And this is his story of turning to the dark side, basically, is like the way I was looking at it. And he kills the Emperor, in this case Atlas, and kills his master Obi-Wan. And now he's the sole Sith on the dark side and doing everything he needs to. And when Pytha is like, I'll kill you next time I see you, the fact that Pytha is against him now is just so depressing. I'm really disappointed in you, Cassius. Great character writing. I mean, you made me hate him, but like you could have been noble. There's so much more you could have done, but no, we hate you. And we'll jump into Darrow since we're there. Man, I mean, we'll make Severo storyline with Darrow. The only real complaint I had about, like, outside of some of the plot lines kind of dropping from the previous book or not continuing right away, is the, like, bringing up of the daughters of Ares. I'm fine with it after where it went, but initially when I first heard of it, I'm like, okay, really? We just brought Jackal back. We're bringing, like, a daughters of Ares. I was like, can we, like, have more original villains is, like, what I was thinking instead of rehashing stuff. But I'm fine with where it went, because they're not as powerful as the Sons of Ares. They're not, like, quite there. They're more just helping people that are low and downtrodden. So I'm fine with it. Severo in this was really, he was going through a lot. I'll just say it that way. He's having his own Golem phase where he's trying to figure out if he's Golem or Schmeagol, or in this case, Goblin or Severo. And it's about him coming to terms with that. And, like, for example, when he finds out Ulysses died and it just, like, messes him up. He goes into the Goblin, and you have a lot of touching moments with Darrow, and they have to get tough. He fights with Cassius. He fights with everyone. And by the end, Severo wins you back, and you're happy. But you're mad at Severo for part of this. You're mad, but you understand what he's going through. And it's just tough. A real tough situation. That being said, it doesn't, like, I get you want to go home, but, like, you understand, dude, if you try to go home, you're going to get shot down. Like, there's nothing you can do. You might as well help. And he's just in a real dark place. And it's totally understandable. But that brings us to, like, Darrow's story, and we'll just go through it. With the beginning where he's trapped and everything. He gets saved. Cassius brings the helium. They can go off. They then have a mission to find Quicksilver. And we see Quicksilver gets his final send-off. It was touching. It was beautiful. And you get the closure for Quicksilver, why he has his ring that's shaped like an eye. And then you also learn, like, stuff about Mateo. And you see Quicksilver's making his own, like, little society, basically, with normal humans. No tiers, no classes, no ranks. Just regular humans to develop and be happy. And I'm happy for Quicksilver and him getting over his past, which we learn about, which is very dark. And being able to do that with the help of Darrow and handing him the ring. I think it was a good send-off for Quicksilver. And then eventually they have to go, after Quicksilver's story, they pick up Lyria, and they have to go to the Rim. And there they find Diomedes, who's in the space shuttle. I really like Diomedes. He's very honorable and noble. One of the only golds on the society side I like, which he's now on the Republic side, so that's good. It just makes me hate Cassius, makes me hate Lysander even more. But Diomedes is great. Their relationship and the way Darrow has to balance Cassius, Severo, and Diomedes is great. And Darrow really becoming himself and going through a lot of self-therapy with his book. He has, like, the self-help book, Path to the Veil. And, like, you can see self-help stuff is cheesy in a way, but, like, I liked it. And there was some wisdom coming out of it. And it helped Darrow as a character. I think he needed it to get off this, like, warmonger phase, especially a defeated warmonger. And it helped him connect with himself. And with his training with Cassius, he even learned, like, his own form of fighting, which we see later with Fa. And it helped Darrow become who he was. And it felt like a throwback to the original Darrow versus in Iron Gold and Dark Age. Iron Gold, you're pissed off at Darrow for making stupid decisions. And then Dark Age, it's just Darrow's in such a dark place. He can't get out of it. And it's not the same. And now we're finally back to the Darrow that feels like he's getting things done. And it's the Darrow we know. And it feels great. Some of the touching moments, like when we saw Severo get the the message about the daughters of Ares and everything, that was touching. You have anything with Darrow and Severo, that was touching. Him and Cassius just destroyed me. Him and Laria too by the end when they're hugging, it was a lot. When he's talking to Virginia and Virginia is breaking down like she doesn't know how to handle things, and it's just, the development is great. And then it all builds up at the end after they get their armor from Quicksilver, the God Killer armor, and he's fighting Fa, and he learns his new move, like Stone of the Wind or Wind of the Stone, something like that. And he's using both Porphyrius, I don't know what the sword name is, and Badlass, and he's defeating Fa. And the chase with Fa was so epic, like going through all the things, going clang, clang, clang. It really reminded me of the fight between the Viper, I believe it was, or the Red Viper in Game of Thrones, and the Mountain. That's what it was reminding me of. I was hoping it's not going to turn out that way. Obviously, I don't want Darrow to die, but where he's like saying like, confess, confess, and clang, 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 and like he's doing all that, and it was great. And then all of that culminates, and he kills Fa. Volga becomes the queen, obviously, and then Diomedes and him make a pact. Lysander makes a pact, he kills Atlas, and Lysander's a little rat, tries murdering them all. He leaves to go be his little tyrant, and it leaves us off with like the little funeral for Cassius at the end, and the pact between all of the Rim, the Republic, the Volk, and the daughters coming back to save Mars. And it's a great way to set up the final book where we have to go take care of Atlantia, and we have to take care of the Jackal. And I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know how it's going to wrap up, but I'm sure excited for it. In terms of this book, like I said before, I'd probably rate it up there with Golden Sun. I wouldn't, like, I'm hyped because I just read it, so I'm not going to say it's better than Golden Sun. I'd probably put it just behind it for now, but we'll see how it grows on me with time if I change that. But I'm excited. Let me know what some of your favorite parts were. It's such a long book, I can't cover everything. I'm just going to talk about some of the things that stood out. Let me know what you didn't like if you didn't like anything. Are you excited about the next book? Just everything that you want to talk about in the comments, because I need someone to talk about this too. Other than that, though, thank you for watching. I appreciate your time, and I hope to see you guys next time. If you could leave a like and subscribe, that'd be greatly appreciated, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.